In the old days, when the river still sang at dawn and the baobab tree was young, our village had a law. Mama Ife, the oldest woman among us, would gather the pregnant women beneath that white tree. Her voice was strong. Listen carefully, she would say, tapping her staff on the ground. A pregnant woman must never walk alone at noon or at midnight. Those are sacred hours. The spirits move when the sun stands still and when the moon owns the sky. Some women nodded in fear. Others whispered prayers. Among them sat Adanna, heavy with child, her palm resting gently on her round belly. She listened with respect. But beside her stood Kemi, 5 months pregnant, her arms folded. A small smile carved on her lips. Old stories, she muttered under her breath. Times have changed. Mama Ife's eyes grew dark. Some laws, she said slowly, were written in blood and tears. The wind suddenly stopped blowing. And though no one knew it yet, that warning would soon be tested. That night, the moon hid behind thick clouds. Inside the family compound, the 2 brothers and their wives ate dinner together. Laughter filled the air. Adanna moved gently, serving food with kindness. Even in her heavy state, she smiled warmly. Kemi watched quietly. When the meal ended, Kemi's husband spoke softly. Adanna has such a peaceful spirit. She will be a wonderful mother. The words pierced Kemi's heart. She had lived beside Adanna for years. Always second. Always compared. When everyone slept, Kemi stood by her window. The night was deep and silent. She placed both hands on her belly. My child will be greater, she whispered. No one will look down on us again. Jealousy is a quiet seed. It does not shout. It does not warn. It simply settles into the heart and begins to grow. That night, something unseen listened. At sunrise, trouble came knocking. Old Mama Sola, the village herbalist, fell ill. Her fever burned like fire. She had delivered many children, including Adanna herself years ago. Now she called weekly for only one name. Adanna. The women rushed to Adanna's hut. She needs the healing root by the river, they said. Only you know which one to pick. Adanna's husband shook his head quickly. It is almost noon. Wait until evening. But Mama Sola's breathing was growing faint. Adanna remembered how that old woman once saved her own mother during childbirth. Some deaths cannot be forgotten. She tied her headscarf firmly. I will go, she said. The sun was climbing higher. The air was still growing. And the forbidden hour was drawing near. Her husband stood in the doorway, blocking her path. Please, he begged. The elders warned us. Spirits move at noon. Adanna looked into his worried eyes. If we wait, she said softly, Mama Sola may not live to see the evening. The compound was quiet. Even the goats seemed restless. Adanna stepped outside. The heat pressed heavily against her skin. Each step felt louder than usual. Behind her, Kemi watched from the shadows. So she dares, Kemi whispered. The sun rose higher. The birds stopped singing. By the time Adanna reached the narrow path to the river, the world felt strange. Too quiet. Too empty. She held her belly gently. Protect us, she murmured. When she arrived at the riverbank, the sun stood directly above her head. High noon. And the water began to shimmer. The river had never looked like that before. Its surface glowed like melted silver. No wind blew. No insects buzzed. Even the trees seemed frozen. Adanna knelt slowly and began pulling the healing root from the damp soil. Then the water rippled, not from fish. Not from the breeze. But from something rising. A bright light shimmered beneath the surface. Adanna's breath caught in her throat. From the glowing water rose a woman dressed in flowing white light. Water lilies crowned her head. Her eyes were deep, ancient, and kind. Why do you walk the sacred hour, daughter? The spirit asked. Adanna trembled but did not run. I came to save someone who once saved me, she said honestly. The spirit's gaze softened. The river seemed to hold its breath. And slowly, the spirit reached toward Adanna's belly. Something unseen was about to change forever. The river spirit stood tall above the shining water. Light wrapped around her like morning mist. Why do you trespass this sacred hour? She asked again, her voice soft but powerful. Adanna bowed her head. Her knees shook, but her heart stood firm. I did not come for myself, she said. Mama Sola once saved my mother's life. Today, I came to save hers. The spirit studied her carefully. The river remained still, listening. You came in love, the spirit said at last. Not in pride. Not in greed. Adanna felt tears fill her eyes. The spirit stepped closer. The air grew warm and gentle. Many fear the sacred hours, the spirit continued. But the spirits do not judge footsteps. We judge hearts. Slowly, she stretched out her glowing hand. Because you walked in compassion, heaven will answer you with mercy. Her fingers moved toward Adanna's belly. And the river light grew brighter. Something holy was about to be sealed. The spirit's hand touched Adanna's stomach. A warm golden light spread beneath her skin. It did not burn. It did not hurt. It felt like sunlight resting gently inside her. Adanna gasped. For your love, the spirit declared, your child shall carry protection. She will bring light where shadows gather. Prosperity will follow her steps. Tears rolled down Adanna's cheeks. But hear me carefully, the spirit added, her voice now serious. Tell no one about this meeting. Speak only of the root you came to gather. If you reveal this blessing, it will fade. Adanna nodded quickly. I will keep silent. The spirit smiled once more. Then her body slowly melted back into the glowing river. The light faded. The wind returned. Birds began singing again as if nothing had happened. Adanna stood, breathless, holding the healing root tightly. She hurried home. But blessings, my children, always carry responsibility. And secrets have a way of being sensed. Adanna reached the compound just before evening. Mama Sola lay weak on her mat, her breathing shallow. Adanna crushed the root, mixed it carefully, and placed the medicine on the old woman's tongue. The women waited. Night fell slowly. Then, just as the moon rose, Mama Sola's body relaxed. Sweat poured from her skin. Her breathing became steady. The fever is breaking, someone shouted. Joy filled the hut. Mama Sola opened her eyes and looked at Adanna deeply. You have been touched by something holy, she whispered. I see it shining around you. Adanna lowered her gaze. I only brought the root, she replied softly. But across the courtyard, hidden behind a cracked wooden door, Kemi watched everything. She saw the way the elders looked at Adanna. She saw the respect in their eyes. And she saw something else. A glow. Not bright. But real. And in Kemi's heart, envy began to burn like dry grass set on fire. That night, when the compound grew quiet, Kemi entered Adanna's hut. She did not greet her warmly. You were gone long, Kemi said sharply. What happened at the river? Adanna smiled gently while folding baby clothes. Nothing happened. I found the root and returned. Kemi stepped closer. The sun was at its highest. Everyone knows that is forbidden. Adanna's hands paused for a second. Only a second. Kemi noticed. You saw something, Kemi pressed. Didn't you? Adanna shook her head calmly. I saw only water. But Kemi saw something deeper. She saw a secret resting quietly in Adanna's eyes. That secret felt like treasure. And Kemi wanted it. That night, she lay awake, staring into the darkness. Adanna met something at that river, she thought. Something powerful. And whatever it was, it chose her. Jealousy no longer whispered. It began to speak loudly. 3 nights later, Kemi crept toward Mama Sola's hut. The old woman was half asleep, murmuring in fever dreams. Kemi pressed her ear against the thin wall. River spirit, Mama Sola whispered weakly. Golden light, the child will shine. Kemi's heart pounded. So it was true. A blessing. Adanna had been blessed. Kemi placed both hands on her own belly. If the spirits bless at noon, she whispered, then midnight must hold even stronger power. Her breathing quickened. Yes, she decided. I will go at midnight. The darker the hour, the greater the magic. The moon outside was thin and pale. Kemi did not think about warnings. She did not think about balance. She thought only of greatness. And so she made her choice. She would walk the second forbidden hour. And some doors, my children, should never be opened by envy. 3 nights later, when the moon hid behind thick clouds, Kemi waited. She lay still beside her sleeping husband until his breathing grew deep and steady. Then she slowly rose from the mat. The compound was silent. No dogs barked. No crickets sang. Even the air felt heavy. Kemi wrapped a dark cloth around her shoulders and stepped outside. The path to the river looked longer than usual. Shadows stretched across the ground like reaching hands. Her heart beat fast. For a moment, fear whispered, "Turn back." But envy answered louder. When she reached the riverbank, the night split with the sound of a distant owl. Then the village bell struck once. Midnight. The air turned cold. The water, once calm and silver, now turned dark and restless. Kemi swallowed hard. "I have come for blessing," she said boldly. The river began to rise. And something terrible answered her call. The river burst open with black mist. From its depths rose a tall figure clothed in shadow. Thorns circled its head. Its eyes burned like dying coals. This was not the gentle spirit of noon. This was the night watcher. "Why do you violate the sacred hour?" the spirit thundered. Kemi forced her voice to stay strong. "I came to help someone," she lied. "Just as another did before me." The spirit's eyes flared brighter. "Liar." The word cracked through the night like lightning. "You come not in love. You come in envy. Your heart smells of jealousy." Kemi trembled but did not kneel. "I deserve blessing too," she shouted. The river roared. "Blessings are not stolen," the night watcher said. "They are earned." The shadows thickened around her. And the spirit moved closer. The night watcher raised a cold, dark hand. "You seek light with a selfish heart," it declared. "So you shall carry a shadow instead." Kemi tried to run, but her feet would not move. The spirit pressed its icy palm against her belly. A freezing pain shot through her body. It felt like winter flooding her blood. She screamed into the empty night. Beneath her skin, a dark mark flickered briefly, like smoke trapped inside flesh, then disappeared. "Your child shall carry the shadow you summoned," the spirit said. "And you shall learn what it means to want what is not yours." The figure dissolved back into the river. The water stilled. The night grew quiet again. Kemi fell to her knees, shaking. She had come for greatness. She left with dread. And though no one saw her return home, the curse walked beside her. From that night, Kemi changed. Her skin grew pale and cold. Her laughter faded. Sleep abandoned her. She told no one what happened. But nightmares followed her like flies to ripe fruit. She saw shadows crawling into her womb. She heard whispers in the dark. "Thief, thief, thief." Meanwhile, Adanna's pregnancy blossomed beautifully. Her skin glowed. Her steps were light. The baby inside her kicked strong and joyfully. Women began to speak quietly among themselves. "Adanna shines," they said. Kemi looks troubled, others murmured. Even Kemi's husband noticed. "Are you well?" he asked gently. "I am fine," she answered quickly. But her belly felt heavy. Strange. Silent. And deep inside, fear began to grow. The curse was no longer hiding. It was beginning to show. On a peaceful morning, as soft rain fell like blessings from the sky, Adanna went into labor. Mama Ife and the village women surrounded her. The birth was smooth. The air felt calm. Then the baby arrived. A girl. She opened her eyes immediately. And within them flickered a soft golden shimmer. Not bright enough to blind, but bright enough to notice. Mama Ife gasped softly. "This child carries grace," she whispered. The baby did not cry loudly. Instead, she made a gentle cooing sound, like a small bird greeting dawn. From that day forward, strange goodness followed the village. The rains came on time. The crops grew tall. Even sickness seemed to lessen. People smiled more. But while joy filled the compound, Kemi watched from a distance. And envy, though wounded, had not died. It was waiting. 2 moons after Adanna's joyful birth, Kemi's time came. But her labor was not peaceful. She screamed through the night. The wind howled outside as if the sky itself was uneasy. When the child finally arrived, silence filled the room. The baby boy was pale. His skin felt cold, even in the heat of the fire. His eyes were dark and distant, as though he was looking at something far away that no one else could see. Then he cried. Not like a normal child. His cry was sharp and long, a sound that made the women step back. Outside, dogs began to bark. A nearby goat broke its rope and ran. The fire in the hut flickered low. Mama Ife's face tightened. Kemi held her son tightly, fear rising in her chest. From that day on, strange things followed the boy. Milk spoiled near him. Babies cried when he was carried past. Even his father began to watch him with quiet worry. And the village began to whisper. Fear turned Kemi's heart restless. She carried her son from one herbalist to another. She visited diviners in nearby villages. She knelt before the elders and begged for help. Each one studied the child carefully. Each one stepped back. This is spirit work, they said. We dare not interfere. Kemi's hope began to crumble. Her husband grew distant. He loved his son, but he feared him too. The child rarely smiled. He stared into empty spaces and cried at night without reason. Kemi stopped sleeping. She stopped laughing. And slowly, her fear twisted back into anger. Every time she saw Adanna's daughter glowing with life, laughing freely, bringing joy to everyone around her, Kemi's chest tightened. That should have been my child, she thought. She convinced herself of a lie. Adanna stole what was meant for me. And when envy returns after fear, it comes darker than before. Kemi began planning something dangerous. Far from the village, beyond dusty roads and quiet farms, lived a woman people rarely spoke of. She was known as a shadow worker. Kemi found her. The woman listened carefully as Kemi poured out her story. She did not look shocked. She did not look afraid. I can transfer the blessing, the witch said calmly. Light can be moved. Shadow can be shifted. Kemi's eyes widened. What must I do? You must bring something that belongs to the blessed child, the witch replied. A lock of her hair. A cloth she has worn. Kemi nodded quickly. And the price, she asked. The witch smiled thinly. 3 years of your life. Kemi hesitated for only a moment. I accept. The witch's eyes gleamed. Meet me at the crossroads at midnight. Midnight. The forbidden hour again. And this time, Kemi walked toward it willingly. That night, the village slept peacefully. Adanna's daughter lay beside her mother, breathing softly. Kemi slipped quietly into the hut. Her hands trembled, but not from guilt. From hunger. She knelt beside the sleeping child and gently cut a small curl from the girl's hair. The baby stirred slightly but did not wake. Kemi stepped back into the night, clutching the tiny curl tightly in her fist. At the crossroads, the witch waited inside a circle drawn in ash. Smoke rose from burning herbs. Place it here, the witch commanded. Kemi dropped the curl into the center. The chanting began. The air thickened. The wind turned sharp and cold. The circle glowed faintly. But before the ritual could be completed, a loud voice cut through the night. Stop this abomination. Torches flared in the darkness. Mama Ife stood at the edge of the crossroads, her staff raised high. Behind her were elders and villagers, their faces filled with shock. The witch hissed and fled into the shadows. Kemi froze. The stolen curl still lay in the ash circle. Adanna arrived moments later, her daughter wrapped safely in her arms. Tears filled her eyes as she looked at Kemi. Why, sister, she whispered. Why would you do this? The villagers surrounded Kemi. There was no more hiding. No more lies. Her secret stood naked beneath the torchlight. Kemi fell to her knees, shaking. The spirits had been watching. And now the village would judge. The next morning, the entire village gathered beneath the great baobab tree. No one laughed. No one whispered. Mama Ife stood in the center, her staff planted firmly in the earth. Kemi, she said, speak the truth before your people. Kemi's knees shook. Her face was pale. She looked at Adanna, who held her glowing daughter close. Finally, Kemi broke. She confessed everything, the midnight walk, the spirit of shadow, the curse, the jealousy that had eaten her heart, and the ritual she tried to perform. Gasps spread through the crowd. Her husband stepped forward, holding their son. His face was full of pain. You have brought darkness into our home, he said quietly. The elders began to debate her punishment. Banish her, one said. Cast her out, another suggested. But Adanna did not speak in anger. She wept. Kemi had lost her honor. She had lost trust. And yet, the spirits were not finished with her. That night, Mama Ife dreamed of the river. The water glowed softly, and the gentle spirit of noon rose from it once more. The curse upon the child can be lifted, the spirit said. But only if the mother changes. Mama Ife listened carefully. For 7 years, the spirit continued, Kemi must serve without reward. She must give without praise. She must love without expecting anything in return. If her heart becomes pure, the shadow will lift. If not, it will remain forever. By morning, Mama Ife gathered the elders and delivered the message. Kemi listened with tears in her eyes. 7 years. No recognition. No comfort. And her son would be raised by others during that time. She lowered her head. I accept, she whispered. Redemption had opened its narrow door. But walking through it would cost her everything. Kemi's new life began that same day. She was sent to serve the poorest families in the village. She fetched water from distant wells. She washed clothes until her fingers cracked. She ground heavy grain beneath the hot sun. No one thanked her. No one praised her. She was forbidden to speak of her sacrifice. Her son was cared for by relatives, kept at a distance from her shadow. The first year was filled with bitterness. The second year brought exhaustion. By the third year, pride began to crumble. By the fourth, her anger had grown tired. By the fifth, she began to notice the quiet beauty of service. A hungry child smiling. An old woman is blessing her softly. By the sixth year, she no longer worked for reward. She worked because hearts needed help. And by the seventh year, Kemi was no longer the same woman who had walked to the river at midnight. Time had broken her. But it had also rebuilt her. On the final morning of the seventh year, Kemi walked alone to the river at dawn. Not at noon. Not at midnight. But at the hour of humility. She knelt beside the water and wept freely. I was wrong, she cried. I let envy blind me. I wanted what was not mine. Forgive me. The river shimmered gently. The spirit of noon rose once more, glowing softly. Without anger. Without harshness. She touched the water. Far away in the village, Kemi's son, now 7 years old, gasped. Warmth rushed through his body. Color returned to his skin. The darkness in his eyes lifted like smoke carried away by wind. For the first time in his life, he laughed. Clear. Bright. Alive. Kemi felt the change instantly. The shadow was gone. The curse had been broken. But the lesson would remain forever. Years later, Mama Ife gathered a new generation of women beneath the baobab tree. Young wives sat quietly, hands resting on their growing bellies. The old woman's voice was steady. This is why pregnant women do not walk at noon or at midnight, she said. She told them about Adanna, who walked at noon in love and was blessed. She told them about Kemi, who walked at midnight in envy and was broken. The sacred hours are not evil, Mama Ife explained. But they are powerful. And power listens to the reason in your heart. The wind moved gently through the tree branches. If love sends you, heaven may answer with light. But if jealousy drives you, you may meet your own shadow. The women listened carefully. And Mama Ife finished with these words. The spirits know your heart before you even knock. Choose your reasons carefully. And that, my children, is why pregnant women do not walk at noon or night. This story teaches that blessings cannot be stolen. The spirits do not look at your words. They look at your heart. When you act out of love and sacrifice, light follows you. But when you act out of jealousy and greed, you may create your own darkness. Sacred moments are powerful. So always check your reason before you act. Because your heart speaks louder than your footsteps. Remember, not every delay is denial. Some blessings come only when the heart is ready. What would you have done if you were Kemi? Would you have confessed earlier? Or still tried to steal the blessing? Drop your answers at the comment section, let's know your thoughts. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more epic stories every week.
This is True Tales by JJ Star.